Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Tarek Elgindi with the Mr. Olympia. Today, we have Quentin Beastwood. This man has conquered many fans, not only in Canada, but in the United States of America. He is ready to go at the New York Pro to challenge Nick Walker. Good afternoon, Quentin. How are you?
I'm really good, man. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you for joining us. We know you're very busy. These are the final days of your preparation. We appreciate you coming to Olympia TV. Also with us, the 1987 national champion. He's also Ironman champion, Arnold Classic champion, the legend himself, Sean Ray. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, baby. I'm ready to get it on.
Sounds good. Also with us, he is the 2000 Mr. USA. He is the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia, the Arnold Classic, mostly known as the voice of bodybuilding, Bob Ciccarillo. How are you, Bob?
What's up, Derek? How we doing, guys?
Doing good. Thank you. Quentin Beastwood, when Nick Walker made the announcement that he was going to do the New York Pro, the speculation started as this is Nick Walker's event. This is the show that he's going to earn his qualification for the Mr. Olympia. However, it looks like, based on your updates on social media, and we do have some of them right here, that you do not think this is Nick Walker's event and that you're going there to take the title away from him. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Listen, Nick Walker, he's a great bodybuilder. He's one of my friends. I like him a lot. This, I think, in the eyes of the public, because they didn't know I was doing the show before I jumped in, it was his show. But at this point, it's my show. So I'm coming to win. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really confident. And I just feel like it's my show to lose. So, I feel like in bodybuilding, you can't second guess yourself, and it doesn't matter who you're going up against. You got to come in with that swag, with that confidence. And for me, like, I'm feeling myself. You're going to have to prove that I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Sean, obviously, as you like to say, we have apples and oranges here, right? Nick Walker and Quentin Beastwood. Nick Walker has tremendous density, great conditioning, but his lines are not as favorable as Quentin Beastwood. The key question is, can Quentin Beastwood come in with the mass and the conditioning to beat Nick Walker? How do you think they're going to fare on a call out?
Well, again, this is going to come down to timing. We've had great guys that had great lines. Some guys I remember: Matt Mendenhall, Roy Littlemeyer, come Olympia time, Cedric McMillan. Some guys can rise to the occasions, and others, they wither underneath it, and they do some crazy stuff in the last minute because they don't have the confidence in themselves, and they're looking for that magic, whatever the hell it is, and they screw themselves up, hold too much water, spill over, get too nervous. They're sweating while they're posing. They forget their posing routine, and sometimes the stage is the moment's too big. But like Quentin said, he's not going there to lose, and that's the kind of attitude you have to have. You got to go in there like you're coming to take what's yours, and that's the right attitude to have. You don't have to verbalize it, but you cannot be afraid of the names on the stage. You have to just be confident in the work that you've done, and the idea that should you win, you get a really big feather in your cap and some wind behind your sails, and it's a sprint to October. I mean, knocking off Nick at this show would be some huge momentum. That I get goosebumps thinking about it, because I remember my first night of champions when Quentin. I don't even think Quentin was born in 1988, but my first night of champions, man, and I was going in there and I was competing against my idol Bob Paris, who was the 1983 national champion. I remember in high school, I'm looking at this guy in the magazine, Robbie Robinson, Albert Beckles, and I had Retribution on my mind with Phil Hill. The moment wasn't too big for me, but I got too busy in the off season thinking I could just cruise into the show. Q doesn't have that problem right now. He's got to go in there like, this title was made for me, and have the same attitude that Phil Hill had back in the day. And Phil Hill knocked me off, knocked Bob off, knocked off Robbie, and won the damn show. Q's positioned with his genetic shape to be able to have that potential to beat a bigger, more muscular, more unaesthetic physique of Nick. But Nick is the modern day Rich Gaspari, Branch Warren, and he's tested and proven that he can actually, this would be his second victory if he goes in there to New York. Remember, he won it down in Florida when the New York Pro was there for COVID. But it's some big shoes to step into. But if he does that, it puts himself in the conversation for the Olympia.
Bob, two questions in one.
Shoot.
Can Quentin Beastwood surprise and upset Nick Walker? And if so, what does that mean for him going into the Olympia? Is this guy the next Simpson Dauda?
It's funny you should mention that because I was just going to pick that name out. Samson Daoud is tremendous. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of Samson. He's got a beautiful physique, great lines, great proportion, safe symmetry, all those things that we talk about checking off the boxes. Quentin is a bigger Samson. Not that Samson's small, but Quentin's just really big at 6'2", and I don't even know what you're weighing, bro, but I'm guessing you're in the 270 range. That'd be about right?
Yep.
So he's got size, he's got shape, he's got proportion, he's got symmetry. These are not Nick's strong points. Nick's strong point is he's as thick as a brick. He's got a lot of muscle, and he's very, very consistent. He comes in on, like Branch Warren, every single time. You got to be in shape. Now, to answer your first question, can he beat Nick Walker? Yes, he can. He has the tools. He's made the improvements. He's got everything that it takes. He doesn't need Nick to be off as much as Quentin has to have exactly what Samson needed. You've got to have enough conditioning to contend. If you're too far apart, again, we use these obscure percentages, but they get the job done. Quentin comes in at 90%, he'll look great, he'll look fantastic, and he'll be in second place to Nick. If he comes in at 95%, then he will beat Nick Walker, even at 100%, because he's got better shape, symmetry, and proportion. Right. So it just comes down to an ideal physique, and I do think that he's made the improvements necessary to put himself in that conversation. Going into the Olympia, if he can beat Nick Walker and everybody else in that stage, we're making it a two-man race, but you got some other good competitors there we'll get into in a few minutes. That's a huge feather in his cap. You talk about momentum. If you can knock off a guy who was top 3 at the Olympia and a perennial frontrunner in any show he goes into, it will literally put him on the map. And all eyes will be on Big Quentin when it comes to the Olympia.
Well, Sean, Quentin, and Bob, sometimes the negative about being a tall bodybuilder is that it takes a little bit longer for you to fill up, right? If you're a bit shorter, most Mr. Olympias, if you look at Big Ramy, you look at Hadi Chupin, Derek Lunsford, they're shorter bodybuilders, and they have been winning. They have a certain density. Now, Quentin, you know that can be possibly one of your, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but where Nick Walker might attack you. Do you have any strategy going in, knowing that this guy is extremely dense?
No, I don't have a strategy. Actually, the only strategy is just to perfect my posing and just, bring the same confidence that I have every day, bring that onto the stage, bring it into my posing practice. Because that's something that I used to drop the ball on in the past is I would just go through the motions with the posing, but I wouldn't pose like I was on stage. So one of the biggest differences, I'm actually like getting jiggy with it in practice, like first thing in the morning, post workout. So the strategy is just because Nick has incredible stage presence. He's one of the best posers. And I don't mean in terms of like the elegant shit. I mean, man, he will hold the pose. He will hold the pose. He doesn't move. He's like a statue. Him, Hadi, Andrew Jack, they're all really good at that. So for me, the strategy is just nailing the presentation, and the rest is going to speak for itself because I will be in condition. I have a fantastic coach, Matt Jansen. Me and Nick actually have the same coach, so I believe we're both going to be on. We're both going to be on point. So it's just going to come down to who displays what they got better, because it's an apples and oranges contest. You know what I mean? The judges might prefer that look, but you got a completely different look in me, and I think that as long as I play to my strengths, we'll be good.
Sean, does he have to do anything specific if there's a fight? I mean, let's also mention Martin Fitzwater, Tonio Burton. They're all shorter bodybuilders. They might pack a little bit more density. He's going to be the tallest guy there by far. Does that change anything for him, or you would advise him just to do his own thing and not worry about those guys?
Yeah, you can't listen. I can only kind of compare it back to my era, and it's hard to compare eras, right? I mean, Andrew Jack was the tallest guy on stage and went to England and he won the Arnold Classic. And you just don't know until you stand them next to each other. We know that Nick's strengths were his legs, his side chest. He's got a great double back bicep. We don't know how the recovery looks on the hamstring injury, whether his legs are down or not. We know that Branch Warren actually tore his quadricep and wound up second in the Olympia. I think Quentin he's a work in progress. You know, he's got a lot more landscape to deal with. Like Ronnie Coleman, it took him 5 years to hit his stride. And the year that he actually hit his stride in 1997, he beat and upset Flex Wheeler, I believe, in Toronto at the Toronto Pro. And then he went into the 1998 Mr. Olympia and he leapfrogged over 9 guys and won the damn thing. This could be the second coming of Ronnie Coleman's accomplishment back in 97. If he's able to leapfrog over Nick, we're gonna plug him right into that conversation when the Olympiad time comes, somewhere in the top 5. We don't know what the judges are going to do. We don't know how Q's going to stand next to Nick because Nick's got a hell of a lot of muscle on that little squatty frame of his. We all know it's not pretty, but you know, Gaspari made a living out of an ugly physique. Branch Warren made a living out of an ugly physique. I mean, Branch won 2 Arnold Classics, second in the Mr. Olympia, and won a slew of shows. Q's got a better, prettier physique, but sometimes with that, there's a lot more areas that you got to fill in terms of the muscle. And if you put too much muscle on a taller guy, sometimes the quality of the detail doesn't come through and resonate on time. So it's going to be a timing thing. And we don't want Q to come in there and be slender because we know that Nick is going to be muscular. And that's where the battle's going to take place. That's where the judges are going to have to do their job.
Well, talking about ugly, I ask America to please ignore Chris Cormier's outfit on this video.
What is he wearing?
Uh,
Who is that?
What did he lose a bet?
Wait, that's Chris? I thought that was Beetlejuice. What the hell?
Good Lord.
Bob, if he sits down a little bit more on the side chest, sits down a little bit more on the side triceps, could that benefit him on some of the side poses where some of these guys present tremendous density?
If I was given some advices, which of course would always be the right ones, yes, if you're a taller guy like Quentin, you've got to sit it down a little bit in those side shots. Nick's strong points are the side shots.
Yes.
When you say he's got good legs, and I'm not disputing that, his legs are fantastic from the side.
Correct.
Okay. From the front, he lacks sweep, and from the back, you know, he's very thick, obviously, but again, this is not his strongest point. This is an area that Quentin can make up some ground here. You got to get a little bit lower. You're not going to get down to his level, but you don't have to make yourself look a little bit more compact, okay? But in the front shots, the front double by, the front lat spread, back double by, back lat spread, he's got to be standing tall like Lou Ferrigno in that remake of Pump and Air years ago. You got to be big and you got to be broad. You got to bring that vacuum up and you got to tower over these guys. Again, not just him, but Martin Fitzwater, Tonio. Again, these are some great bodybuilders. We're expecting a very decent lineup coming up for Steve's show. But you got to play a little bit of strategy out there. But conditioning is going to seal it. If Quentin can get that conditioning, again, he doesn't have to out-condition Nick. This is not a conditioning competition, okay? It's a bodybuilding competition, and he's already checking off more boxes than Nick. He just has to be close enough to make it where it all looks good, and it's not a true apples and oranges when it comes to conditioning.
Yeah.
Quentin, I want to find out a little bit about your career as an amateur and then going to the pro ranks. And then your last show was in Texas, correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a bodybuilder, as an amateur going into the pros?
So I started competing in 2015. I went the natural route. I ended up turning pro because we have a natural pro qualifier in Canada in 2017. So I did a regional show, a provincial show to qualify for the nationals. I did the nationals. I won the nationals pretty easily. And, you know, I turned pro. So then I took a couple years off and I actually competed for the first time as a pro in 2019. And that was when I obviously wanted to push for open bodybuilding. You know, one of the things that motivated me to make that transition was I was watching a lot of like videos of like the 90s bodybuilding events. The 90s, like the 98 Olympia is one of my favorite videos when Ronnie really like showed up. And I'm actually a huge fan of Sean Ray. It's funny when I was
Oh God, Quentin, don't give him more credit. This guy is so cocky and arrogant. He doesn't need it more.
There you go.
True. I loved his physique. When I got into bodybuilding and I was looking at those older guys, like the golden era bodybuilders, Sean Ray was up there as one of my favorite guys. So
Thank you.
It was after a while where I'm like, okay, shoot, there's a difference in height. I probably won't look like him, so I got to start looking towards some other guys. But yeah, definitely, I got a lot of respect for you, man.
Right on.
Yeah, so I just from 2019 onward, I've just been on the journey of building more muscle and competing in a couple events a year, and I just wasn't there yet. Being a taller guy and not being on gear at least at the time for very long. I was always out muscled. So I'm at a point now where we have a decent amount of muscle. With my frame, I could load on 20 more pounds, I'm sure. So as a year
How
go
old
on,
are you now, Q? How old are you?
I'm 29 in 2 days.
Okay. Wow. Happy birthday. Well, just like when we start talking about filling out, I told Bob on his podcast the other day, Ronnie Coleman was a better Ronnie Coleman in his second half, and he was much older. So some of that stuff that we're talking about that you might not have now has to do with age, has to do with experience, has to do with maturity. And all you have to continue to do is remain injury-free and fill out. Some of these guys, the smaller ones, will fill out earlier. I filled out earlier. At 35, I was retired. Lee Haney retired at 31. So you can get there early, but you just have to kind of incrementally work your way up. Ronnie Coleman got there late.
Now, how tall are you?
Ronnie was very similar, though, in nature. He was natural for years, competed naturally, powerlifting, and all that. Everybody knows Ronnie's story. This is a very similar path, and I think you're doing it the right way because you built that good base. You've got a great base to build on now, and now you make your choices with whatever it is that you wish to do. But I see this as a great road that you're going down, and I think people are going to see a marked difference between your last appearance a couple of years ago on stage in Texas and what they're going to see in 2 weeks in New York.
Oh, yeah.
For the record, most of these little guys that are there, that are impressive, there's not a whole lot more that they can do because they're maxing out and they're smaller. I know I was the same way. Mohammed bin Aziza, Lee Labrada were smaller, so there's not a lot of change from one year to the next. Whereas a bigger guy, you can constantly see this quality stuff happening over the years, and you play it right. We're talking about right now in 2024. Next year's Arnold Classic is going up by a couple 100,000. Sooner or later, the Olympia is going to be $1 million, right? In 5 years, these little guys are going to be gone, and you're going to be sitting pretty at 34 years old. You're in a good position.
Yeah, I was going to ask this question. Wendy Fortino from Olympia TV. By the way, we're going to have a live with Michaela Aycock right after this live. Michaela Aycock, was invited for the Rising Phoenix. Congratulations. How tall are you, Quentin?
I'm like between 6'1" and 6'2".
Really? Because I was in Vancouver judging a show, and I saw Quentin Beastwood in the lobby, and he looked like a freaking huge basketball player. And, maybe bodybuilders were a little bit smaller, were a little bit shorter. And I said to myself, well, most tall guys don't have legs. So let me see, him guest posing. And then he shows up on stage and he's got these monster legs. And I remember telling Rudy, I said, man, this guy can be a phenom. And that's when we started covering him on Primetime Muscle. Now, Ian Valliere, who, is a Canadian bodybuilder who understands about Canadian bodybuilder, he said, and I respect Ian's opinion, he said categorically, the most talented, the guy with the most potential is Quentin Beastwood. Out of all the guys, Samson Dauda, out of all the guys with the genetics, Quentin Beastwood is the guy that I think, once he fills up, will be the most dangerous. What do you have to say about this comment, Quentin?
It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me because Ian is a no bullshit person. He doesn't just sugarcoat stuff, and I believe it. I've seen it in myself for a long time, so it's cool that other people can see it. Makes me feel like I'm not delusional.
So that's always a good spot to be, is not delusional. But where did you get the name Quentin Beastwood? Now we get the outtake of it, but clearly that's not your real name. I think some people think that's your real name at this point.
Yeah, a lot of people do. So it came from like 2010, 2012 era. Like I was gaming, I was playing Call of Duty, and I saw somebody in the lobby and their name was Clint Beastwood. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool name, like a play off of the actor, right? So then when I was creating my Instagram, I'm like, okay, I want something clever. And I was gonna go with Quinn Diesel, like a play off of Vin Diesel. Then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do Quinn Beastwood. And that's
I think isn't Terrence Ruffin Diesel or
yeah. There's a lot of Diesels, so I actually went the right direction.
We got too many Diesels going. I like the name Beastwood is great. It fits you perfectly, but you've got other people you've got to hurdle over here because the last competition, you actually have a few guys in the same competition there, isn't that right? You lost to let me get this right because I didn't do my homework here, so excuse me, but I think it was Texas was your last show, and I think it was Martin Fitzwater.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah,
so you got to get past Martin, who's coming off a win here. How confident do you feel that the progress that you've made is enough to take him out first?
Well, first and foremost, I want to preface this by saying I have the utmost respect for Martin. Congratulations on winning the Detroit Pro. I think Martin looked incredible. He made incredible improvements. And he brings it. He comes in condition. But the thing is, man, like when you have a show and you got Nick Walker there, like it doesn't matter. Like, listen, all these guys are good. Like Tonio's very good. Tonio was 8th at the Olympia last year. I think there's a Beef Stew. He's a young guy coming up. He's good. He's really good.
Yeah.
But man, bro, Nick Walker. You know what I'm saying? Like when I think about the show, when I think about these guys and how they compare to Nick, I don't think any of them can beat him. Just the advantages they have are some of the same advantages Nick has. Whereas they're apples, I'm an orange. So it's just much different. Now, I mean, maybe it doesn't go my way, but I'm not worried about none of them boys. I'm not worried about nobody.
Hey, Sean, this front double biceps is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the potential is there. He hasn't arrived. I mean, we saw it again in a Ronnie Coleman and some guys that are that height and that weight, even though they're big by themselves, can actually look slender standing next to a more squattier, more thicker, more muscular guy like a Nick Walker because he's young and packed on all that beef. And again, this guy might see the fruit of his labor in 2 or 3 years down the road. He's on the right trajectory, and having the opportunity to stand on that stage with an Olympian now is great opportunity, not only to try to push him, to hopefully beat him, but to prepare the road. Because I look at Quentin as just this guy's got potential written all over him. Whether he arrives in New York and does what he's supposed to do in New York or not, remember, I can only go back to compare myself. I was 4th place at the Night of Champions, and people were writing me off right after I turned pro and won the Nationals. But 2 years later, I was 3rd in the Olympia. It wasn't the Night of Champions. It was the best in the world. And I wound up in 3rd place 2 years after a 4th place finish at the New York Pro. The New York Pro has very good significance for kind of gauging if you're on the right direction. You're going up against the defending champion. Nick's already won the New York Pro. Nick's already won the Arnold Classic. Nick's already been in the Olympia. So trying to get to where he's going right now in the coming weeks and take him out, that would be a huge feather in your cap. But you really don't have a whole lot to prove there. Be nice if you could take him out now. But your time is coming. So that's good. That for me, that's comforting to know that patience is what's going to win the race. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Stand next to the guy, see what you can give him. If you don't take him out, you'll live to fight another day. Look, if you don't win there, I got the little Shondow for you for potential. The Shondow Trophy. This is what I got after 13 years in the Mr. Olympia.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I survived.
Well,
by the way,
Sean,
Quint, that is a life-size statue of Sean, by the way.
The Shondow. Yeah, buddy.
well, Sean, obviously we talk about, once you're Mr. Olympia, you're Mr. Olympia forever. But,
Yes.
I think some Mr. Olympias would look at your career and say, I would love to have Sean Ray's career, especially because in 1994, you probably posed the most challenging physique against Dorian Yates, and many people had you winning that event. But that's another topic. Bob and Sean, and I also give this question to Quentin. I think his upper body is quite nice. Love the small waist. The arms are huge. I think he could fill up a little bit more of the chest. I love how the abs are being displayed here. But is it just me? But on this picture, is the upper body a little bit more developed than the legs?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, and look at the leg. He's a big guy. Sometimes the legs on a big guy are the last thing to come through, right? Ronnie Coleman was a power lifter. He was the strongest bodybuilder I think we've ever had. So he was throwing around some super duper, super heavy weight. And the taller you are, you're going to have to do that. Arnold didn't have the best legs, but he also, me and Bob talked about this, wasn't standing next to world-class guys that we have now. Will they show up in New York? I don't know. It might be one or two world-class guys that look like they're ready to do business. But when you get to the Olympia, all your weaknesses are on full display, but those weaknesses could just be the delay of maturity. It comes with time. And when you're that tall with that much volume, time is the thing that's actually going to wind up working to your favor, Quentin. If it doesn't happen today, you got to know you're going to be around for a few years to come. And those guys that are there now will be gone. They'll be gone. So if that, I don't know if you can find some comfort in that, but you got to be, it's a marathon.
I think he's more interested in winning now.
I agree, but I'm just saying.
I see him grabbing his beard. He got a little angry when I said his upper body is a little bit more developed than his lower body.
I got something to say. I got something to say. That's why. So it's funny because my legs are actually my strength. I think right now, in that video specifically, I was just really flat, and I've been doing close to 2 hours of cardio every day. So I think at this point, they're just like a little overworked. But once I put my legs up for a week and start eating, that's going to change.
Well, I'm going to chime in on that one also. First of all, this is one picture. The picture I sent to Sean the other day, which you posted up, was tremendous. And you can see that you put on a lot of sides into your legs, a lot of thickness overall. But everything's in comparison. Let's just take Quint versus Nick. In this front pose, especially this front double bicep, Quentin has the advantage, actually. He's obviously a lot taller, a lot broader. The arms are huge. The waist is small. He's going to present a better X-frame and all that. But he's also got more sweep on his thighs. Nick's thighs from the front do not have a lot of sweep to them. So this is going to bode very well for Quentin in that first round. And symmetry, obviously, is a given. These are the shots I'm talking about right here. This is a better-looking shot. Again, still taken from – it looks like it's taken high to low, so I don't know if somebody's standing on something, Quentin taking these pictures, but if this was taken at even level, you would see that the thickness even more prevalent. But there's a double buy that you have that's in the same photo shoot that this one was taken. That's an absolute tremendous shot, but it's all about the comparison. It's just going to matter how he stacks up next to Nick, when they're right next to each other.
Am I exaggerating here when I see a little bit of Joe Stubbs on this pose?
Yeah, Joe's got that big back.
It's funny. You see a little bit of Joel, but you know what I see? I see a better Paul Dillette.
Yeah, it's got great structure.
Especially from the back, right? Because Paul couldn't hit a back double by or lat spread to save his life, but Quentin can. But he's got genetics like Paul Dillette. And Paul Dillette, back in his day, you want to do some good Google searching, everybody, literally had some $1 million genetics. This guy, if he could have put it together, could have won the Olympia. And I see Quentin on that same path of you got all the tools, all the genetics are in place. Train smart and keep healthy, bro, and just keep, like Sean says, it is a marathon. So whatever happens here, great. You're going to be in contention. People are going to be very impressed, and then go from there. You got Toronto. You got the whole season ahead of you. So,
yeah, that's a good question. Quentin, if you win your qualification in New York, do you keep going or do you shut it down until the Olympia?
So my coach, we spoke about this. He wants me once I win the show to shut it down. I had a chat with Milos, Chris Cormier, Dennis the other day, and I'm like, nah, fuck it, man. I want to do every show. I've been inactive for like 2 years, so I want to get active, man. I want different pictures on different stages. I want to collect all these big checks because they're paying more here. So I would love to do New York, Cali, and also Toronto just to collect some checks. So if I win New York, I'm doing Cali. And if I win both, then maybe I'll shut it down. But I'm most likely.
That's crazy. You say if you win both of those, you shut it down when the show's in your backyard in Toronto.
I know.
Right? You're gonna sit there and watch someone else walk off with that check. Go get the money.
I know.
Your hometown, man.
A part of me is like, I'm like, would they give me a third one? That's like where my mind's at. I don't know if they.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what? Do one show at a time.
Listen, your coach, Matt, is a very smart guy. He knows what he's talking about, but I know where he's coming from. If you're going to hit a couple, hit a couple that are really close to each other, because you've got a big body. Big men traditionally do not fare very well competing a lot throughout the year. That's a small man's game. They can get away with that. You still need seasoning. You still need more growth. Like you said, you can put on 20 more pounds of muscle. That's also going to be shared by the judges and obviously whoever you're standing next to. So I get what Matt's saying. So if you're going to hit a few though, bro, pick a few here that are real tight and close together.
Here's the flip side. If it doesn't go right in New York, you do Cali. If Cali doesn't go right, you got to do Toronto. You may wind up doing all three because that's the way the cookie crumbles. You got to get
And Quentin, if you win New York and you win Cali and you win Toronto, it wouldn't be any. Simpson Dauda, he won Romania, then he went to Prague, then he went somewhere else. So I mean, if you are the most dominant bodybuilder,
you got to go get it.
You got to go get it. You got to collect that check. For that matter, I'm not quite sure Nick Walker should stop. The California state is 1 week after the New York Pro. You won in New York, you can just fly across the country, and obviously you're favorite, but we're speculating here. But
wait.
Hang on a second. Boy.
Didn't our little guy Tonio do the same thing last year? He won.
Yeah, he won New York. And then
Antonio's 180 pounds. He can get away with this kind of stuff. This guy's 280 pounds.
Did you say Tonio is 180 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, so listen. Here's the bottom line.
One thing about Tonio Burton. He's about 220, 225, and he can clog your toilet immediately.
Tonio Burton, he ain't 225 with a pair of T. Michael shirts. And
Chris Cormier used to do it. Vince Taylor used to do it. Gaspari
but they were competing. Yeah, but Sean, hang on. They were in different times of their career than where Quentin's at. Quentin is still in the building phases of getting his physique to a point that when he gets there, he's going to be very difficult to beat. He's not a veteran like a Chris Cormier or Flex or any of these guys.
You get experience by doing the business, Bob. What are you talking about?
There's a happy medium here, and there are two different things. Number one, if he goes in New York and beats Nick Walker, then I would absolutely shut it down. All right, forget about the other shows. I would ride that to the Olympia because you just beat a guy who was top 3 in the Olympia. If you don't beat Nick and you go to one of the other shows and you win one of those shows, great. Then you did exactly what you wanted to anyways. Then I would shut it down and get ready for your first Olympia. But
Sean, I usually don't agree with Bob. But if he wins the New York Pro, the hype on Quentin Beastwood would be very, very high.
Correct.
Yeah, well, you don't have anything else to prove. That's true, and you can keep the money in your pocket because unless someone's flying you around the country, you want victory. And I guess your goal is to try to qualify for the Olympia. So if you accomplish that, you don't have to put yourself back out there. I mean, that's the nature of our game. That's where we're at. I mean, if you're talking to Milos, he's going to say do every show. You talk to Chris, every show. Dexter, every show. Vince, every show. Flex Wheeler, every show. It depends on who you're talking to. Look, some guys are living for bodybuilding. It's what you like. You want to compete because that's what gets you out of the bed. But if you're trying to beat this guy and that's the only guy you have to beat, maybe take it easy because you're going to have bigger fish to fry down the road.
Listen, if you listen to Milos, you'll be hitting 427 poses in your routine. So let's just keep things in perspective here, okay?
That's a good point too.
Bob,
one show at a time.
Don't be mean to Milos. Everybody's been mean to Milos lately. We need to protect Milos.
Milos has never met a show he didn't want to compete in, all right?
Listen, and let me tell you something. Let's put Milos on that conversation. Milos did exceptionally well. Listen, he did well with the genetics that he had. but he was also a victim of his own circumstances. Milos competed, like Sean said, in every show he could ever get his hands on. Probably has an all-time record for that. But he never really truly took an off season or two to make those gains that might have put him in a different echelon, because I believe in all those 70-something shows or 170 shows or whatever he competed in, I think he only won one.
Yeah, that's true.
Canada.
So there's a give and take to competing all the time, or you're going to take that time and make the improvements. At 6'2" with a large frame, bro, you're on the right track. Like I say, if you win this, shut it down, and we'll see you in Vegas.
But what was the last time you competed? Was in Texas, right?
Texas, yeah.
And you placed 4th.
I placed 5th, actually.
Fifth.
Behind
Who placed ahead of you? Hunter?
Hunter wasn't in that show. Kamal.
Kamal, that's right.
Yeah, Kamal, Andrew, Martin, and who was third?
I thought it was Tonio. Huh?
Steve Kuklo, yeah.
Oh, Steve. That was the show that Andrew Jack won.
Yeah.
And Martin Fitzwater got
Good lineup.
second.
Yeah.
Good lineup.
And they started confronting each other.
Fun times.
As we say in bodybuilding, instead of beefing with each other, clogging each other's toilets.
There you go.
Nobody's clogging my toilet. I don't know where you got that from.
That's the code right now. Hey, man,
Wow.
I could not believe that after a bodybuilding show, the bodybuilding industry was talking about clogging each other's toilets. I could not believe. I could not explain to my friends what was happening. My friends were calling me and saying, "What is happening in the bodybuilding world with the toilet thing, Tarek?"
Well, apparently these guys like to talk shit these days.
Yeah. Hey, none of them are coming to my house after the Olympia. Forget about it.
Well, so you placed 5th in Texas. So you haven't competed in how many months?
I think it'll be about 19, 20 months by the time New York comes.
Well, you better show some improvements. Otherwise, I'm going to hammer you at the Olympia News on Monday.
I mean, yeah, you're going to be praising me, man. I'm showing up.
Quint, let me ask you this, because we've talked a lot about the improvements that you have made in those 20 months that you've had to train, which I think have been it worked very well in your favor, to get you to this point. But what are those improvements? If you were to critique yourself from the last competition to this competition, what are we going to see on stage that's improved most notably?
So for me, like, I had a good posing coach before, but the posing coach I work with now, it's funny, right? Because it's like one of those things where you can work with like 20 trainers that are all good, but like one style might bring the best out of you. So
Sure.
I think Joey Belt, like KJ Center Stage. And yeah, I don't know, like he's just been helping me find the right way to pose for my physique, where I feel
Well, I mean, the posing's a given, but I mean, I'm talking physically though. For your physique, what are we going to see different now that we didn't see 2 years ago?
just fuller. Everything is bigger. Everything's bigger, more full, more conditioned, more density, more energy on stage. My back is like my back lat's a good pose. Like my back was always like a weaker pose before. So like,
what's the weight difference, Quentin, that we'll see? What did you step on stage and compete at Texas versus what you're going to do in 2 weeks?
I think I'm at least 10 pounds bigger. I was 263 at the Texas show, and I think I'm on pace to being about close to 10 pounds more than that for the New York.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I think I made gains all around. My adductors are much better. Calves got even better somehow. My back is better. Arms are better. Chest is better. And it's just, for me, I'm also one of those guys, like, when I'm walking around like in a stringer, I mean, I obviously look good. I got a good physique, but it's not like that freaky, crazy look. But it's like when I get into the poses, that's when we're talking. And that's why I feel really confident, because I think when I get into the poses at the size that I'm at, it's going to be it's going to draw a lot of attention to my physique, especially because these other guys, they all have a bunch of similarities. They're all like, I don't know how tall they all are, but to me, they're all short.
Of course, you're 6 foot. Anything over 6 foot, everyone's short.
Yeah, so
I think Nick Walker, Fitzwater, Antonio Burton are around 5'8", 5'7".
Who's 5'8"? None of those guys are 5'8".
Yeah, I was going to say, there's not on a good day,
You're being
bro.
generous.
Well, Fitzwater head hair. He shaved.
Is-
Okay.
Hey,
Nick
listen,
Walker,
if Stu Beat cuts his hair, he'll be down to 5'4".
Bob does not like Stu's hair.
I love it.
I'm going to be curious to see if he does anything with it, because it is a distraction to me. Now, we haven't seen Stu on stage in a year or so, but he's definitely a name to contend with. He's got a lot of muscle.
Bob, we have so many bald people in our sport.
We do.
We have one
do.
guy that has hair, and you want to cut his hair?
Well, listen, I don't say do the Sean Ray and stuff, but can we just chop it down or put it in braids or something?
Yeah, some braids, not braid. What bodybuilder have we ever seen in braids besides Robbie? way back
Melvin
in-
Anthony.
He competed with braids. Oh, Chris Cormier 1 year too.
Yeah, and actually, Chris, your counterpart there, he had braids there for a little while.
He's
Yeah.
not my counterpart. I just work with the guy.
you
I don't have
just,
a- I don't have-
buy his clothes for him, right? You're a fashion.
I don't have a
Fashion designer.
relationship with the guy. Now, here's the deal. Front double biceps. Quentin is going to look different than Nick Walker. And that's a pose that benefits Quentin Beastwood. Front lat spread, I think that's a pose that also benefits him. Side chest, I think Nick Walker is ahead of not only Quentin Beastwood, but some of the other guys. Side triceps as well. So I think Nick Walker, we're speculating here, but based on the past presentations, when it comes to the back shots, I think that's where, as my co-host here, Sean Ray, likes to say, the rubber meets the road.
He was going to say
That's
that.
true.
Yes.
If Quentin Beastwood looks slender on the back double biceps and the back lat spread, then Nick is going to dominate. The key component is that, and I don't like to speculate about pictures, but this guy does not look slender on this pose.
No.
I mean, that back is a bit of Joel Stubbs. And if he shows up with this back next to Nick Walker and Fitzwater, he's going to get things confusing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now-
Very interesting.
Moving on to abdominals and thighs. Abdominals and thighs. Nick has tremendous ab shot. Obviously, like Bob said, he needed to have a little bit more of a quad sweep. But that's a shot that's also going to be a little confusing. Mark Fitzwater and also Tonio Burton. And then you have the most muscular. And based on this picture here, I think Nick Walker is going to overpower Quentin Beastwood. I think that's a pose here that Nick Walker is going to overpower most competitors. For that matter, I think he overpowers even, some of the guys, Derek Lunsford, Hadi Chupin. His most muscular is out of this planet here. Do you agree with my assessment, Quentin? Are you upset about my assessment?
Oh no, listen, I would never be upset about anything about somebody's opinion on bodybuilding, never. But yeah, no, I see exactly what you're saying, and I think the thing for me is, as long as I don't come in flat, as long as we fill out proper, like I'm gonna look crazy, like with the exception of me being like flat or coming in off. That's the only way I can see myself, just not meeting the expectation.
And Matt Jensen is a great coach. I doubt he's going to bring you flat or off your conditioning. Sean, do you agree with my assessment where things might get confusing in certain poses and some poses Nick Walker is going to?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be one-on-one shot. I mean, that back lat spread is probably the best one that's going to be on that stage. It's the other ones he's going to have some troubles with. I mean, Nick has those very thick abs, chunky abs. His quads don't feather and separate nice at all on the lower side. But Quentin's going to be kind of the odd man out, being the taller guy. He's the modern-day Andrew Jack in this show. I mean, I believe Tonio's doing it right. What is he? He's so short. But at the same time, don't look sideways, man. You got to be up there like this is. You're really not competing against these guys because we don't have anyone to stand you next to. If Andrew was in the show, we'd have someone to compare you with. So you got to be in your right headspace that, look, Steve is going to put you to work. You guys aren't going to get up there because there may not be a lot of guys in the show and have an easy run. You may break a sweat. So you might as well start practicing those mandatories now. Get that water out now so that you don't break the water when you're on the stage because some of those other guys might start to sweat. You want to be able to pose round after round after round and be dry and hold them and don't shake and look like you've been there before and don't wilt under the idea that this is Nick's show. I mean, your confidence is what's going to maintain your composure in the belief that, you know what, I'm here to do what I'm here to do. You don't care who's there. So
Listen,
that's gonna help you on stage.
I think it's Nick's show if I'm not there.
Yeah.
But you know, as I said, they're gonna have to prove to me that I'm not that dude. That's how I feel, you know. And regardless of what anybody says, it might make sense, but like it's almost like you got to go into that. Even if someone could be better, like, you can't ever admit that. You can't ever believe that.
Let me give you a small story I was confronted with in my career many years ago when you're playing in a sandbox. 94 that Tarek brought up. I was training really to beat Flex Wheeler because I thought Flex was going to be Mr. Olympia in 1994, right? So Dorian was Mr. Olympia in 92, Flex was second in 93, and Dorian won. Going into 94, all eyes on me were on Flex Wheeler because I thought Flex was going to be Mr. Olympia because he didn't have to contend with the Arnold Classic. Flex wound up in a car accident and broke his neck. So while I'm thinking about Flex, he doesn't even stand on the damn stage. So don't get caught up with Nick, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So when you focus on someone else, you take the focus off yourself. And again, you're on the right trajectory. So just make sure that when you get there, they're not criticizing you on your mandatories. They're not criticizing you on practicing your posing and your face is all distorted and you're sweating and you're dripping wet and you're looking at the other guys. Just focus on yourself because that's where the battle is going to be won.
You know something funny? When Samson beat Nick, he was sweating and breathing heavy.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a little odd?
I thought it was, but I thought he was also better.
Well,
Yeah,
that's got a whole lot to do with prep and stuff. That's a whole other show. But I want to take just a moment to remind people how the judging process works. When you're assessing a physique, okay, you're assessing the entire physique in 8 different poses. That's called the mandatories. Okay, the reason I bring this up is like we talk about the abdominals or we talk about the biceps or the back. You're assessing the entire physique in the front double bicep position. You're assessing the entire physique in the front abdominal and thigh pose, okay? I bring this up because this is a spot I think that you can use a little bit of strategy, Quint, and you're looking for a good aesthetic physique out there. Nick has got great abdominals, but he doesn't have a really good abdominal pose. Yeah. Because he doesn't have flaring thighs and his thighs don't separate a whole lot in that pose. This is where I think a guy like you could actually make some great strides in putting together some great posing tips. Milos would love this, okay? But to present your physique at its best, a side tricep, I'm not so sure that he can't have a better side tri than Nick because Nick tends to be a little bit blocky. You are anything but blocky. So depending on how you hit your side tri, that could be an advantage for you. Yes, in the side chest, he's going to be very difficult to beat, and most muscular, that's going to be a toss-up. But you're always looking at the entire physique, everybody. When you're watching the video of the show, if you're watching the pay-per-view, whatever it is, or pictures, keep in mind you're assessing the entire physique in every single pose that they do.
Yeah.
I would like to add that sometimes you lose a pose, but it's by how much you lose a pose. Sometimes you lose a pose and you're completely obliterated, but sometimes you lose a pose by a little bit, just a little bit. The guy's just a little bit better than you in certain poses. And then on another pose, you completely obliterate the guy. So that takes in consideration on the judges. You know, it's like, well, he was very dominant on the front double biceps, even though he lost the back double biceps by a little bit. So by how much you lose a pose also goes into consideration. This guy sounds extremely confident. I got to tell you, I get the vibe that this guy thinks he's going to win the show with 100% conviction. Not only he's saying that, but he's feeling it. And I saw some pictures. I saw some pictures of him in the internet, and I said, I need to do a live with this guy to get a feel for him. And he looks extremely confident. Now, the time has come for some of us to lose followers and make enemies. Okay. Quentin Beastwood. Okay. We're going to start with you. I want you to give me the top 3 of the New York Pro.
Top number 1, me. Number 2, I mean, Nick.
Nick who?
Nick.
The guy named Nick, I think.
Number 3, shit, I don't know. Like, I don't know who's better between Tonio and Martin. I don't know. Like I have no clue, but I think it's going to be one of those two.
Okay, that's fair enough. Before we go to Sean Ray, the most polarizing figure in the history of bodybuilding, let's go to Bob Ciccarello. Bob, give me the top 3 at the New York Pro, and make sure you're 100% sure on that, because
Sure.
I will replay this. As you guys know, I want to give credit to Bob Ciccarello. You know, Bob is not a self-centered, arrogant guy. He doesn't like to take credit, but he picked Hadi Choopan to win the Olympia when nobody had picked Hadi Choopan. So I give him a lot of credit. Give me your top 3, Bob.
We're
Even
going
though
for
Hadi
the
didn't win the
upset.
Olympics.
Going for the upset here. I'm going with my man Quentin Beastwood to win this show. Pull the big upset of the lifetime. The whole internet will be buzzing, brother. So don't let me down. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I'm going with Quentin Beastwood number 1. I'm going with Nick in a very, very closely contested 1-point decision, second place. And to answer your question, who's better between Martin Fitzwater and Antonio? I'm going to go with Martin Fitzwater, a little bit thicker, a little bit more complete. Tonio will be in the mix. He's probably going to be in 4th, somewhere around there. I don't know. I don't have the complete lineup here, but and then somebody like Stu Beef or one of those guys will end up in that rounding out that top 5.
So you have Quentin Beastwood winning. You have Nick Walker in 2nd, and in 3rd you have Tonio Burton.
No, I've got Martin Fitzwater in 3rd.
Fitzwater, okay.
Tonio in 4th, and then maybe a Stu Beef in 5th.
Okay, it's beef stew.
Beef stew beef. Pick your soup. Doesn't matter to me, brother.
Okay, Sean Ray, give me your top 3 at the New York Pro.
Well, I've already lost my Instagram page in case you're talking about losing followers.
You lost your Instagram page?
They hacked me yesterday. My daughter's trying to work on getting it back. So I don't have any followers to lose. I don't know how many people are watching this channel. But
do you have like a YouTube page, something that we can unsubscribe from you?
Yeah, I don't have YouTube. I'm on X, I'm on Threads, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't have Instagram at the moment, and maybe never will.
We had some fans here writing, Sean Ray looks incredible. Look, Sean Ray looking great. By the way, Sean, you do look great. I know that riding your bicycle at Huntington Beach with a glass of Camus is really rejuvenating you.
I feel younger. I'm only Quentin. So the retirement side is I don't lift weights anymore. I just ride my bike and walk on the treadmill, and that allows me to have a glass of wine every once in a while. And I think I'm getting younger. I'm definitely getting leaner. But at the same time, when it comes to predictions, I've never really been good at them because I've never judged. I've done everything else from promoting and everything else, but I think you have the goods to make this upset. I'm with Bob. I'm actually cheering for you. I like Nick, the person. I've never been a fan of Nick, the physique, and I think he knows that. But because he's so Branch Warren and Rich Gaspari-like, which is the total polar opposite of me, I've never really warmed up to that look. I've always kind of warmed up to the Paul Dillette, the Sean Rays, and the Leela Bradas, more shapely or more aesthetic. You have the type of look that I want to see win. Are you capable? Time will tell. I'm cheering for you. You're like the modern day Cedric McMillan, Paul Dillette combination. I like that. It's promotable. It's ideal. I think it's very athletic. I think Nick may suffer a setback. Man, it's a tough one to say Nick is going to lose a show that he should win. But it would be the best thing to happen in bodybuilding. So I'm rooting for you, the underdog. I think Fitzwater has what it takes to take out Tonio. Tonio, to me, the last several times I've seen him has looked exactly the same. Fitzwater made a lot of improvements, Martin. So I'm going to go with Bob on that. I'm going to follow suit. And look, if Nick wins, I lose nothing and you lose nothing. Because I think time is on your side. And if it's not going to be this year, it's in your near future. You're headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
Well, that's interesting. Bob Ciccarello and Sean Ray.
I love a good upset.
Quentin Beastwood to upset
I'd love
Nick
to see
Walker at the New York Pro. Well, I'll tell you who the great winner is. Congratulations to the promoter, head judge of the Olympia, Steve Weinberger. Man, this is going to be an incredible event. The prize money has been raised. I mean, when you talk about New York Pro, you talk about guys like Sean Ray. Well, Sean, you won the Night of Champions, correct?
Well, I was fourth in the night of champions,
Fourth.
but it was one of the best ones
Trying
ever.
to give you credit right
Thank
now
you.
since you're going to be in trouble. Phil Heath has won
Yeah.
the New York Pro. Big
Jerem-
Rami has won the
Jerem
New York
Charles.
Pro. Dexter Jackson has won the New York Pro. So obviously Nick Walker
Marcus
has
Ruhl.
won the, a lot of the great champions. So congratulations to promoter and head judge of the Olympia, Steve Weinberger. It's going to be a fantastic show. This might be one for the history of bodybuilding. And if the upset happens, man, I think Nick will be very, very mad.
What's
But
the
I
date?
think, what's that?
What's the date?
It's the 18th. It's the 18th.
2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks. We have the New York Pro. Are you doing are you guest posing in Pittsburgh, Quentin?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well,
If I was you, Quentin, I'd be booking a flight to Pittsburgh and just showing up like Mr. T coming out of the audience, coming at Rocky and stuff, challenging Nick Walker right there, right now to a pose down, brother.
Good for bodybuilding.
That's what I would do. Just saying. Listen, I'll be there to announce the pros. I'll be there to announce the guest posers. We always get a crazy audience there. This is the only place that you can go, gentlemen, that you will see this lineup anywhere except for the Olympia. So it makes this a very prestigious show to go to. But I'm just saying, Quentin, if you got a couple extra minutes, you got some frequent flyer miles you want to use, I wouldn't be opposed to if I spot you out in the audience, be prepared.
Tamer, where is the show at, Tamer?
my name is Tarek, but that's
Tarek.
okay.
You look like a guy named Tamer.
No.
It's at the Sheraton, isn't it?
It's the New York Pro.
No, the Pittsburgh.
No,
Pittsburgh.
the New York Pro, where the contest is, Bob. We're talking about the New York Pro.
Well, we were just talking about Pittsburgh.
It's
I
going
mean,
to be
I'm
in
talking
New
about
Jersey.
New York.
It's going to be in New Jersey. I'm going to leave the link on the description of the live for the New York Pro, for the Pittsburgh Pro. It's going to be incredible. And I got to agree with Bob, Quentin Beastwood. Who's your sponsor?
HD Muscle. I got other sponsors too. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now. HC Muscle is the main one, the supplement sponsor.
Give them a call and say, listen, guys, everybody wants me to go to Pittsburgh. I'll be there wearing my HD Muscle shirt, sitting in the audience. Bob Ciccarello is going to call me. I'm going to go on stage with the shirt, take it off, and let people know what I mean.
I like the element
I'm
of
just
surprise.
saying that's my suggestion.
Just go to New Jersey. Go to New Jersey and show down there.
Anyways, my name is Tarek El-Guindi with the Mr. Olympia. Bob Ciccarello and Sean Ray have made their picks, and they believe that Quentin Beastwood will be the 2024 New York Pro Champion. Quentin Beastwood said it from the beginning. I'm winning this thing. I am now going to end this live and call Nick Walker let him know. Actually, Nick Walker just sent me a text message saying, Eric, I want to do a live right after. Nick, we can't. Right now, I want you guys to stay on for Wendy Fortino, Linda Murray, and Michaela Aycock. They're going to talk about the Rising Phoenix. My name is Tarek El-Guindi with the Superstars. We'll see you next time.
Ladies and